almost looks like a Brave New World, but essentially, which, of course, I mean, my philosophy colleague will say you've made a nice, and you still have a nice premise that you snuck in over there. But nevertheless, I'll ignore that one and still try to argue the question, because you're still arguing whether that's better or grimmer or whatever else that means. In some sense, I think both of those worlds are quite grim. Okay, and I think that's one of the cases we try to argue. I mean, you can't. Being better doesn't necessarily mean you can't do without. I mean, that's definitely not what emotion says. Okay, essentially, but it also a one-dimensional measurement. I mean, essentially, this is physicists talking. Okay, can't help it. Essentially, you can measure difference. What I try to argue, what Neil tried to argue, is that you can measure difference in many different directions. Okay, and I think if there's enough different directions where it says A is better than B, I'm happy enough. But essentially, undoubtedly, you'll find a direction in which B is better than A. So essentially, you've just picked one by essentially chopping the world in half. I'm not convinced it contributes that much to our understanding. I think the real argument is you need to look at many of these and then make a comparison, because I agree with my colleague over there that this naive statement that is just better in every single way is clearly insulting your intelligence. It's not going to work that way. But it's better in many ways, and I think that's the case we're trying to argue over here.
Yes. Yes, I mean, I guess the more trivial answer to that would be a world without art would be grim. A world without any science at all would be grimmer than grim, because a lot of us wouldn't have survived past childhood. So that's in some sense a rather trivial answer. I think the more complete answer is that indeed you do need to decide for yourself which aspect that you regard as being tantamount to that. Thank you. Opposition?
Well, you know, what I found was interesting was that, you know, your evaluative criteria boiled down to feelings, to you know, a sort of human sense of pleasure, fulfillment. You know, these are things, human purposes. I think, however much one might try to you know, leave them out of one of your models, they seem to sort of creep back into the evaluative criteria. Hence, I would say that, you know, that it's perhaps, you know, it may be impossible to conceive of a situation in which humans, you know, what it means to be human, the human truths and human purposes are somehow left out, which is what you know, the idea of pure science attempts to do. But, you know, I would say that one can never entirely dissociate the moment of scientific discovery or the purity of a theory like quantum theory from the purposes to which it is put, and sort of increasingly in the world in which we live, you know, that means commercial exploitation. So, is that an answer?
Well, when you raised that question, initially what came to my mind was a comparison between, say, the Amish in Pennsylvania and the United